Okay, we're live.
All right, we're ready to start the evening's meeting. First, we have one person for public input. Michelle, if you want to bring them on.
Shana, if you could just unmute yourself. Thank you. Can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Shana Klinger, and I live at 276 Glenwood Avenue. I just moved downstairs from 274 Glenwood Avenue.
All right, go ahead, Shana. What do you have to say?
Hi, I just wanted to follow up with the council and council president about the annual report from the chief of police that President Moran was going to look into, and wondering that the code that states the chief of police shall make a report to the city council at the first meeting in September in each year of the work of the police division during the preceding fiscal year, embodying therein whatever recommendations he or she may deem advisable. I know that you said at the last meeting you were following up on this, President Moran, so I'm just curious what the status of it is.
Yeah, we don't have it yet. We'll officially request it this evening. We did not do that at the last meeting. I thought we did, but we didn't. So we'll officially make a motion to request it, and then assuming it's been completed, we'll hopefully have it in the first meeting in October, but that would be the plan, but we'll do that officially tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that it will be of interest to a number of citizens, and I really appreciate you following up on it.
Thank you.
Shana.
So that's it for public input, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
Oh, somebody else just joined our.
That's Elena.
I have somebody joining us from a 729 number. Can you state your name for the record?
Fortunato Pinto.
And are you here for the public hearing for
Yes.
the auto repair?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Very good. That will be starting shortly at 6:45. Okay, I'm going to have you on mute until then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All set. Thank you.
All right, next we have pre-council. We have certainly an updated report. Brett Johnson from Fortuitous Partners regarding Tidewater Landing Project. Brett, thank you for coming this evening, and we'll let you go ahead and give us, I guess, an update as to where the project is at the present time.
Hey, Mr. President, before you start, I know the mayor's on. Is there any, do you want to take comments from him first, or is he just there to listen?
I can't see him right now. I hate to say it. I didn't really look at it because I'm seeing the Tidewater Landing thing. So.
Okay, no problem.
Is he on? I don't even know.
Again, it states that he's there. I just didn't know what he was there for, whether he's there to listen or what.
Well, Brett, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor, you interrupt me anytime you want, Mayor. But
I'm just here to listen. Sorry.
all right. Well, thank
you guys.
Thank you to all, and it's an honor and pleasure to see you all again. I am pleased and excited to be able to update you tonight on the tremendous progress that's been made in recent months at Tidewater Landing. None of this would have been possible without the time, effort, and commitment of our great partners at the city, Commerce Rhode Island, and National Grid. They realize, as I do, that this project is an historic opportunity for Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and the region. Working together, we've overcome many challenges presented by the pandemic while adapting flexibly and wisely to some new realities. Overall, Tidewater Landing continues to be a project that will completely transform the area and the regional economy with new jobs, places to live for hundreds of families, and create millions in new tax revenue for the city and state. While we continue to work on the details of the project's financing, one thing remains unchanged. We remain committed to privately financing the stadium where Rhode Island's new USL soccer franchise will play. COVID has created new realities that we have adapted to. In the short term, for instance, we all realize that traditional office market has been impacted. In response, we've modified our original plan for office space while retaining the flexibility to restore that use when the market recovers. At the same time, we now propose to more than double the amount of housing for families. The plan also includes large outdoor event spaces where people will be able to grab a bite to eat before walking across the pedestrian bridge to enjoy a game or concert. Meanwhile, the marketplace continues to respond with great interest to Tidewater Landing, and the milestones we will work together to meet in the next few months will only make it more attractive to investors. Earlier this month, we established a Rhode Island-based company specifically designed to support Opportunity Zone financing of Tidewater Landing. We have a brief presentation. I'm prepared to answer questions. However, before we begin, I'd like to thank the entire City Council, and in particular, Councilor John Barry, whose diligence and hard work on behalf of his constituents has made this a better project. I also want to take this opportunity to share my continued excitement about the enormous potential of Tidewater Landing and express my gratitude and appreciation for the ongoing support and commitment from our partners in the city and at Commerce Rhode Island. I'd also like to recognize the efforts of our fortuitous team, including our internal group of talented designers. Now I'd like to introduce Dan Kroger, a principal civil engineer with the firm Milone and McBroom. Dan has served as development project manager for Fortuitous Partners at Tidewater Landing, and he will have the honor of walking us through tonight's presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brett. So it's a pleasure to be here tonight to present to you these project updates. So with that, as Brett mentioned, we've, despite all the obstacles and new realities that have been created by this pandemic, Tidewater Landing continues to forge ahead, make significant progress in the coming months with the continued commitment of the state, the city, and Fortuitous. So we're really excited to be here. We're excited to provide updates on what we've been doing since December, when we first were announced as the winner of the RFP. And we're going to go through some of that now. So some of the things we've been doing with our talented design and architectural teams, we've looked at a number of different studies, market studies, engineering studies, and site investigations. We've got to know the sites better than we did back last December. So we've continued to kind of dig in investigation work. We've done a ton of coordination with the Narragansett Bay Commission, NBC, who's the sewer authority, as you all know, in Pawtucket. We've got all green lights from NBC on providing sewer to the property. In addition, we've worked with the Pawtucket water supply. There's water supply available, et cetera. We've talked with the Rhode Island Coastal Resource Management Council, the CRMC, and the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, DEM, on a preliminary basis about the project, and we'll continue to do so in the coming months. As you all know, we were in front of this body back in May, where the council reviewed and ultimately adopted or approved an option for Fortuitous to exercise a lease on the Pawtucket properties. And of course, that's what we're here tonight to start. Fortuitous is looking to go ahead and execute that lease based on all the diligence that's been done. We've continued, as you all know, I think that the stadium actually is on the National Grid land. We've worked quite closely with their designers, engineers, and with National Grid. They've been a great partner for us to figure out how our stadium fits into their remediation efforts that they'll be starting later on this year. We've worked with them on scheduling and how we're going to ultimately execute a lease, a long-term lease with them to build the stadium there. That's subject to final design and some permits. So we're proud to say that we've completed the due diligence process, and I'm going to go over some of the next steps that we're going to be going through here. So with the initial stages complete and a strong foundation prepared for this project, Tidewater Landing's poised to move into the next stage of design, permitting, and financial planning. So this step tonight is our kind of first step moving forward with the review by the council of a lease that we've been working with the administration, our attorneys, and the city's attorneys on. So this is kind of the first step in what I would say is a fairly lengthy process that we're going to have ahead of us, but a very important one. We're gonna finalize hopefully in the next 60 days the public financing structure, details, etc., and we'll be sharing that hopefully in the next 60 days. Thereafter we need to finish up with something that we've started, the master development agreement. I'm going to talk more about what that entails, but we need to finalize that with the city in the state over the coming months as well. So that's an important step, and ultimately the council will be a part of that process and need to review and adopt the master development agreement. And then we're going to get into, and we're going to do this hopefully in the next several weeks to month. I'm calling the first phase of the permitting process. So we're going to rezone the properties, the Pawtucket-owned properties and the National Grid property, so that they permit the project as proposed. That's a planning and zoning process, as you all probably know. They'll make a referral to the council. You all will have an opportunity to review the zoning and hopefully adopt the zoning. That's something we'll start potentially here in the next several weeks. Also, in parallel, we'll be moving the master plan approval. The master plan is fairly similar to what you're going to see tonight. And we're going to work with first the Riverfront Commission, who makes an advisory opinion to the Planning Commission. Ultimately, we'll go through that master plan process. In addition, the redevelopment plan and the project TIF plan, which I think you all know well, it's the process and where we figure out the financial details and how the city and state will specifically bond for public improvements. That's a planning and zoning process, an advisory opinion over to the PRA, and then ultimately, again, we'll be back in front of this council to discuss both of those plans and hopefully have you all adopt those. After that's all done, we'll get into the further kind of site plan approvals, the state and federal and both municipal city of Pawtucket permits. So that's a little bit further down the road, but wanted to preview that as well. So I said I would talk a little bit more. So some key descriptions. The master development agreement is a process where we define the components of the development. So what assets are we putting on the site? Housing, office, stadium, et cetera. All those different components of the project, we define those. We define the obligations of both fortuitous and of the public sector, of the city, of the state. We talk about timelines and milestones for completion of the project. We assign various responsibilities, maintenance being one of them. Again, so this is a process that we need to negotiate an agreement and then ultimately work with this council to adopt that agreement. The master plan is in this definition. So there's a master plan approval process, but also a master plan is essentially a conceptual land use site plan that defines the general components, as I said, the different buildings that we're going to build, the orientation of required improvements that'll be on the site, identification of access points, parking, all of those intended to have a collaborative discussion about what it is we're going to do and provide a long-term guide for our implementation through the further process. And then finally, the site plan is a lot more detailed. So that's where we're going to have very detailed site design. We're going to really lock in where the buildings are going, where parking's going, where you have engineering studies, backup, all of that stuff, detailed architectural plans of all the improvements. The site plan is much more definitive, and those are going to be used for the further on, the phase 2 permits. So our detailed city, state, and our federal review of the project specifics. And with that, so the December 2019 plan, I show this. I think when you look at the new plan, I just wanted to refresh where we were in December. I think it's going to look fairly similar in a lot of ways. Obviously, you have the Seekonk River, a really, I guess, what we'll call an underutilized asset on both sides of the river. In this perspective, on the west side, we have the site where the stadium will be located. And you'll see that that's pretty similar location to where we're proposing it. There was some retail space to the north of the stadium. On the east side, there was residential housing, retail, restaurants, and then in both concepts, very engaging of the waterfront with the river walk, with the bridge. And I think you'll see that similar. In the background behind 95, obviously the Apex site, we had an indoor event center and hotel. And I think that's the biggest change as I flip to our current master plan. We moved the indoor event center and hotel to the division site. So just for reference to get everybody acclimated, I now messed up your orientation. So north is to the right on this page. So plan right, you have 95 on the far right of what you're looking at. You have Division Street that runs east-west just to the south of 95. So that corner between Portuguese Social Club Way and Division Street, that's where we've relocated the event center and hotel to for many reasons. The biggest one being, as we've looked at the plan, we actually feel like the event center and hotel actually work better on the site. It's the synergies between the stadium and the event center actually work out very, very well. Having the event center located here, it fits, actually really well. There's a nice flat spot, as you know, up on Division Street there. And that we think it works well where you've got great views for the hotel, to the river, to the stadium, and down to the Riverwalk amenities. To the south on Division Street, on that side of the site, it's still very similar to what we originally contemplated. So it's in a little different orientation, but we have housing. I'm not sure if you could see my mouse, but number 19 here and number 20, those are multifamily apartment buildings, both of which are, this is kind of a multifamily piece. And then the inside, Brett referred to our event plazas, outdoor dining opportunities. So this area here, we're kind of thinking of as, restaurant row, type areas. So large public space that could be very flexible, can be used for quite a few different things, but outdoor dining, farmers markets, you name it. It's great space with great views to the stadium, down to the water. And that connects down to this river walk and actually boardwalk in this case, where number 3 is. We also want to get a connection down to Festival Pier, which is a great existing asset that the city has. But in our opinion, it's probably a little underutilized. With the additional activity here and connectivity, oops, let me go back. With the additional activity, we think, getting people down will really be a catalyst for Festival Pier. Ultimately, you could take the bridge, so the pedestrian bridge that connects from Tidewater. We really want to make these two sites feel like one. So the bridge is really critical. So this is the pedestrian bridge where you see number 11. That connects over to the Tidewater site. So the stadium, as you saw back in 2019, it's still over on Tidewater. It's on the National Grid site. We slid it south, so it's completely on the National Grid site. But the orientation, pretty much everything about it is quite similar to what you saw previously. Again, there's another event plaza between the stadium and between this building to the north. Another opportunity for outdoor dining, farmers markets, art festivals, you name it. We think there's a lot of activity that can happen here for the community. And that'll front up against a building that on the ground floor at the stadium concourse level. So on game days, we'll have retail, restaurant, perhaps a brewery. Not exactly sure what'll be there, but that'll front and serve as game day activation. But on non-game days, it'll also be a fantastic opportunity to have people, aggregate in this area. Around, not on the ground floor, but above is multifamily apartments, which actually wrap around a multi-story parking garage. So where you see these cars here, there'd be a parking garage on the interior of that space. And all of that connects down to the river walk down along the water. Again, a great opportunity to get people back on the water, to use the asset that is the river that's here now. And this shows a different view, which for those of you that aren't used to looking at these kind of 2D plans, I think this is a little easier to understand. So it basically brings into 3 dimensions what we're showing in 2 dimensions on the other plan. Again, you can see the river right down the middle of the site. On the west side of the river, we have the new USL Championship soccer stadium, which I should say is a multi-sport type stadium: football, lacrosse, field hockey, you name it, any sports, rugby, concerts, etc. It's going to be a very, very flexible venue. But that's still here on the west side, with the building that you could see with the concourse plaza between the stadium and that building. You could see how there's kind of retail restaurant spaces here on that concourse level, and then residential housing above. You could see the bridge that provides the connectivity over to the division site. And then you can really see a lot of this green space, a lot of the riverfront amenities. You can kind of see how we're going to activate that waterfront. On the south side here, you have your multifamily housing. In this view, you can't really see, but the plaza spaces between these 2 buildings with retail, restaurant. We're actually contemplating a food hall down at the lower level on the plaza here, and the hotel would be up above. Sorry, very sensitive mouse. So the hotel would be above, and then the event center behind that hotel, which has a lot of synergy with the event center. So with that, that's a quick fly through of the plan, of the rendering, to try to give you a sense there. And just to highlight kind of the summary here, as Brett talked about, the stadium, we feel it's important to emphasize, is still privately financed. It's going to be privately owned. Office space, as everybody can imagine, has been impacted by the COVID pandemic. So we have pared back the amount of office space that we previously had, trying to be flexible. But we think the office market will recover. So we want to be able to be flexible to get office uses back in here when the market recovers. As I said, we've increased the density, and we feel like we kind of have the highest and best use for the Division Street site by relocating the event center and hotel to that site. We've increased the multifamily density on both sites, which, as we've looked at the market, we feel like is a really good fit. And most importantly, we've maintained the waterfront revitalization, which I think is something that everybody, should be. I know we are incredibly excited. There's been a lot of planning over the years by the city on how to bring the waterfront back into focus. We feel like we have some great ideas. We're open to other ideas. But between the riverfront, the park space, the pedestrian bridge, we really feel like it's going to bring people back to the water. So we're excited about that. So I said this is step 1 of a multi-step process. I want everybody, for the council and also for anybody that's listening, we intend to be very forward. We're excited to be a part of the Pawtucket community. So there's going to be many levels of engagement opportunities for the community. You've got your typical city and state approvals where you have public hearings as part of zoning or master plan, the TIF plan, the preliminary site plan. All of those have public input ability. But we're kind of not stopping at that. We want to, again, really try to engage the community and make sure the community is really excited about the project. So we've already reached out to a number of the commercial entities around the site, introduced ourselves, and started conversations with a bunch of folks in the neighborhood. We do intend fairly shortly to host neighborhood meetings for the residential neighborhoods around the site. Obviously, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of questions. We're excited to hear those questions and engage with the residential communities in these neighborhoods. And honestly, anything else, other opportunities, you all, I'm sure have seen things that are quite successful over the years. We're completely open ears on other forums that we can engage the community. So please let us know if there's something that we're missing, and happy to engage on that front. And with that, I think that concludes. We kind of spoke quickly because I know we had a limited window here. So that was a lot to digest, but happy to answer any questions. And then I believe the council was considering a motion on the lease. So I'll turn it back over to the council. Thank you.
Dan, Brett, thank you. Any questions from any of the members? Council Coleman.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation and the update. My question is, I was gonna ask about the community engagement, and part of that was about local businesses, and there's a lot of space for like on the ground retail and pop-ups and this and that. So I'm wondering what the official strategy is going to be. I would really like to see this prioritizing Pawtucket-owned, Rhode Island-owned, locally owned businesses, like fewer Lululemons and more things that are indigenous to our area. And so I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the outreach strategies to try to populate some of those spaces with locally owned businesses.
Yeah, Brett.
The quick answer is we intend on being very supportive of locally owned businesses, and probably ranking them, with prioritization to Pawtucket and then, to the broader state of Rhode Island. But we have had an incredible amount of outreach from local Pawtucket businesses. We've also had a fair bit of outreach from state-owned businesses, breweries, restaurants, otherwise. So you can be confident that will be a major focus of ours. So I certainly do not see Lululemon being on the site.
Yeah. And may I ask a second question while I have the floor?
Yes.
And that's regarding green standards in building. Like, do you see any opportunities for significant use of solar alternative energies? Is this envisioned to be a lab in any sense for alternative power, green energy, anything like that?
Absolutely. We are already in touch with a lot of the in-state resources. It's very important as well to National Grid, and it's also a major initiative of the governors, as you know. So we intend to do everything possible to make it as green as possible. And so that will be part of this next phase as well.
Right. So are there formal commitments for that, or are you just, what does that look like, I guess, to the extent that you have an answer right now?
Sure. It's too early to say right now. Again, I'd love it to be consistent with where the governor would like it to be by 2030 in terms of, from what I understand, it's completely sustainable. But it's too early to tell. But for sure, we're absolutely committed to it for every single reason, in terms of, making it as sustainable as possible, making it as economic as possible, and trying to take advantage of every single lever we can pull to achieve that.
Thank you.
Next, Council Barry.
The residential development on Taft Street, the parking in the center of that building, is that just for the businesses and the residents in the building, or is that going to be parking for the stadium on game nights or event nights?
Yeah, and Brett, I could take that. So it's a little bit of both, Councilor Barry. All those details, obviously, we'll talk about in significant depth at future meetings. But it's certainly we need to. There's going to be businesses in there. There's going to be residents in that building, so it supports that. It does support some folks. Certainly not all the folks coming to the stadium, but happy to get into that in more detail as we continue to proceed.
Thank you.
Councilor Vasquez.
My question was, what is the price range of the proposed housing?
Yeah, we're going to start to explore that in this next phase as well. And, certainly it's important for us to make sure that we have a broad inventory, meaning that, affordable workforce, et cetera. But it's too early to say what the percentage would be and exactly how we get it all to make sure that it pencils out. But it'll be part of the next phasing and the financing plan we're going to start working on from this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Wildenhain, do you have something next? And Councilor Mercer? Councilor Mercer.
Just a quick question with the change in plans on the west side of the river. What's the traffic flow thought process with the addition of the retail, residential, parking garage? Have we given thought to how we're going to get the cars in and out of there? Is it Taft Street primarily, or?
Yeah, Councilor Mercer, good question. We've spent considerable effort since December looking at these kind of things. We've engaged with actually Mylona McBroom's traffic consultants, parking consultants, and we've looked at that very closely. I'm not prepared tonight to go into great depth on it, but I can tell you that we understand the sensitivities, certainly of the community, to make sure that parking is manageable, that parking is, you don't have people parking in everybody's front yard. So we're very cognizant of that. So we've been looking very closely at how we most efficiently get people in and out of the Tidewater site.
Thank you.
Council Willoughby.
Yeah, I looked at your rendition, and now it looks like that Apex is out of the mix. Does that come back in at any point if discussions open up, or is the plan now just to turn on and exclude that site from this project?
Yeah, I think in light of how great we feel that this project fits on the current sites, 2 sites, my posture would probably be the same as it's always been relative to Apex. It's a nice to have. It's not a must have.
Mm-hmm.
I welcome a high class situation where that would be also available for us to work with you all and the city and everyone else to really make that a fantastic addition, if you will. But by no means do we feel, as hopefully you all would agree, I think Dan and his team have done an exceptional job of really, placing this incredible development on these 2 sites.
Council Coleman.
Thanks. I wanted to tag back to Councilor Mercer's question about parking. What's the state of conversation with RIPTA?
Yeah, so we have had multiple conversations with RIPTA. We feel strongly about where those conversations are. We're at a very early stage of the planning, and obviously as we go further, but we've sat down with them multiple times. We see an opportunity for a game day shuttle to go to satellite parking lots that would bring people in, obviously bring less cars onto the sites, probably use some of the remote parking that's available. There's an open willingness to explore that further when we talk about it.
What about though beyond game day shuttle? I mean, if you're looking at putting in residential units here, then you're going to have bus riders potentially in some of them. I mean, I don't need to tell you all that millennials don't drive, and the number of people who drive goes down as the age goes down. So, it seems like this is also an opportunity to think about servicing that community with more robust transit infrastructure, period. If this is not envisioned to be simply a game day environment, which from your presentation, I don't understand it to be that at all, then it seems to me like one of the obvious pieces of that infrastructure is to build a partnership with RIPTA that can serve people who are living and working there, whether or not there's a game or an event.
No, it's a great comment. So I guess our conversations with RIPTA have been nothing short of positive. So as we continue, you're spot on. Obviously, you have the new transit hub that's going to be up in the other part of town. So I think connectivity to the transit hub. We're really hoping that people will live here and take the train, take the bus. So interconnectivity. There's not a bus stop too far away. I think there's one up on George Street, but making sure we connect to that. We're absolutely going to explore all those opportunities.
Thanks.
Councilor Rujo.
Thank you. I was wondering if there's a budget to remove any existing hazardous material from the lots. Once you start digging, sometimes these problems occur. And if you have a budget, if you go over it, what are the cost of that if it goes over what you anticipate?
Yeah, so another great question. So those type of things, when I talk about the master development agreement, those are the kind of things that will be laid out in that agreement. So I could say the exact answer. I don't have a precise answer, so I don't want to give you an imprecise answer right now. We are continuing to explore and do. We still have other investigative work that we need to do. No doubt about it. We need to do more environmental testing. The good thing is there's a good amount of data that we were able to review. We're gonna figure all that stuff out over the coming months, and as part of the ongoing process. I'll just highlight that we are while these plans look super rigid and finalized, they're still, they're early on. We have a lot of work to do, over the next, call it year or so to make sure that we answer all those questions. So great question.
Thank you.
I wish I had a more precise answer at this time.
No, I appreciate that. And one other question too, is there any plans to make it a year-round facility, or maybe in the winter, an ice skating rink, or et cetera, something that the residents could utilize during the winter months when you're not having concerts out there or not having a soccer game?
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to have a hockey rink, ice skating rink, anything to engage that stadium, for 365 days a year is music to my ears. Obviously, the community center and the event center is going to provide that programming and optionality so that it really becomes a destination for both local community and beyond. But anything we can do with the stadium, especially because it's going to be privately financed, would be fantastic.
Thank you.
Councilor Barry, you got a follow-up?
Just to follow up with Dan and following Terry's question, Dan, you know that I think there is serious issues with the traffic situation on the School Street side. So I hope you're coming up with some very innovative ways to get people in and out of there. This is a very tight little neighborhood.
Yeah, no doubt. Our traffic engineers have been scratching their heads at times, but I think we have some good ideas. We're gonna have to look at that very closely. Pawtucket has a lot of one-way roads, as you all know, and it makes it a unique challenge to deal with. We've got some great folks on our staff that are going to look at all of that and make sure that we minimize any of those impacts and hopefully increase the efficiency of traffic flow as part of the project.
Thank you.
I had actually three questions, if I could ask them. Number one was on the stadium, the soccer stadium. What is the capacity of that? I don't know if that's changed from the original numbers to the present, number one. Number two, where is the state fitting in presently? Are you getting full cooperation from the state, and how will they fit into this moving forward? Last question was the total cost of the project. I know there was a projected number when you first announced it, but I'm thinking it may be smaller, reduced now based on the fact that you have less residential. So I was just looking to see what maybe the change in number is on the value of that. So those were basically my three questions, if you want to take them one at a time.
Sure. Yeah, so right now, the initial build on the stadium is contemplating around 7,500 seats with the intention to be able to flex it up to 15,000 seats over time. But so that remains consistent. The state has been, like the city, has been nothing short of extraordinary relative to their support of the overall project. Sorry, just so the overall size of the project, if you will, has reduced some. It's probably in the sort of low 300 million range. There are what I would call a fair bit of off-balance sheet figures that don't factor into that. The professional soccer team will be a considerable amount of money and raise, et cetera. So the overall size of the project remains substantial, but we're obviously developing two sites rather than the initial three that we had. So the budget's changed beyond just what I would describe as the shifting master plan.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned before, because you did say that before. You've been very consistent on the question about Apex, that Apex is not guiding this at all. If somehow we can purchase Apex, I guess it would be a benefit, but it's not going to stop the project from moving forward. And you're already showing us your plans and how you're adapting and being flexible to them not being part of the project. So I thank you for that.
Did I answer all the questions? I apologize. It's
Oh, you did actually. You did very well. Thank you.
okay.
Any other questions at all? Mayor, did you want to say anything at all or no?
No, thank you. And, this is going to be an ongoing discussion and, it's great economic opportunity for the city, but we got to balance the responsibility that we have to our constituents as well. So thank you for all of your support. And I want to recognize Jeannie and John Savage and John Simmons, who have been helpful, and the Fortuitous group, as well as the state. So, and look forward to being heard at the next committee meeting. So thank you.
Yeah, and if we could, continue to do this as we go along, that'd be fantastic. I mean, I know we're going to have hearings and things like that based on what you've just proposed to us, but if we can just continue to keep the communication open for the council, that'd be great. And, if we can keep meeting like this, that'd be fantastic, just to keep us updated as to what's going on. I mean, we'll know anyway, but it's just nice to see a face and see you guys there telling us what's going on. It's just it's a comfort for the council, that's for sure, and the people out there that are watching this and that are in tune to everything. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we welcome it. And I think after months of a lot of hard work, we're starting to get to a point where we can really start to see a lot of things start to come to fruition in a fairly compressed time. And I mean that in the most positive sense. So thank you all for your support, and look forward to continuing to go onward and upward.
Yeah, thank you. Before Councilwoman, before you have a question or a comment, Jeannie, do you want to add anything in? I know you're here, so I want to see if you want to throw anything out there.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo some of the remarks that the mayor and also Brett has made, that we've been working very hard and very collaboratively with the team from Fortuitous. They're just a great group to work with. The state has been a great partner as well. And we look forward to bringing these proposals to the council and providing you with any information that you need as part of your decision-making, and also working with the redevelopment agency. So this is a great project, and I think it's going to be a real asset to the city and a real transformational project, which had been the expectation a year ago and is certainly the expectation right now.
I still would like to name the soccer stadium after John Barry if possible.
We'll take that under consideration.
Take that under consideration. Council will.
Mr. Johnson, have you seen any enthusiasm for people wanting to get into this area, disappear with this current situation that we've had?
No, I'm not. I remain very optimistic relative to investor support for sports anchor, community driven developments in prime real estate on the water, in a great community. So nothing has changed. And the reality is the mix is changing in the short term, understandably. The world will start to spin back on its axis, and we all look forward to that being sooner rather than later. And certainly the core driver for the project to begin with, bringing professional soccer, it's great that the leagues are back playing, and we slowly started to put fans back into our stadium in Phoenix, and there's a real hunger and thirst for it. And I can't wait. I just can't wait for the day when we're doing the same in Pawtucket.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions before we end this? Anything else? Well, again, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, did you want to see who that was or who the other people were? Or?
Yes, so I have a couple of people that have joined the call, and we have a few public hearings. We have 2 on the Board of License Commissioners dockets and 2 for the City Council docket. So I did get Antonio Centeo on the line. He's here for one of the public hearings for the Board of License. I have somebody here from a 9458 number. And if you could just unmute yourself and state your name and what matter you're here on. So again, that's a 9458 number. I also have somebody here from it's a 617 and it's ending in 1899.
That would be me. My name is Patrick Ford.
Patrick. And what was the last name?
Ford, F-O-R-D.
All right. And what matter are you here on this evening?
I was here to listen to the presentation by the people from Fortuitous.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Will we have an opportunity to raise any questions on that?
So our public input period is over.
Okay.
So that would be maybe brought up at the next public input when we have the lease agreement on the agenda.
Oh, the property committee.
And
I'm sorry.
He could speak at the property committee when they discuss it too.
And so we also have that person that just unmuted themselves from that 9458 number. Can you state your name for the record? Nope. All right. We also have somebody here from a 617 number ending in 6883. If you could just unmute yourself and state your name for the record. And what matter you're here on. All right, well then we'll leave them on as a guest listening. We also have somebody here from an 8592 number.
yes.
I'm sorry. It's an 8592 number.
Yes.
Yes, and what's your name?
Stephen Dixon,
And Stephen, what matter are you here on?
the change of 30 India Street.
Thank you so much. So that matter will be coming up shortly, and I'll unmute you at that time, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we all set for Pawtucket Board of License Commission?
I have one person here. I just want to double check.
Yep.
9458 number. No? All right. So I think we're good. Thank you so much.
All right. Pawtucket Board of License Commissioners will come to order. The clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Here.
Council Ruzo,
Here.
Council Barry,
Here.
Council Coleman,
Here.
Council Mercer,
Here.
Council Rudd, Council Vasquez,
Here.
Council Vitale,
Here.
Council Wildenhain.
Here.
8 in attendance.
Mr. President, I'd move approval of the previous minutes of the September 9th, 2020 meeting on a roll call vote.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council
Second.
Vitale, Wildenhain, that the previous minutes as prepared by the clerk for the September 9, 2020 meeting be approved on a roll call vote. Any changes? Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes?
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-0.
President, I move approval be given to item 2, the consent agenda and petition for licenses, starting with a petition for firearms renewal. John Francis, down through Public Laundry to Laundromax on Mineral Spring Avenue. On a roll call vote.
Second.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Coleman, that we approve the consent agenda, starting with under petition for licenses, firearms renewal, John Francis, BBA competition shooting supplies, down to the public laundry renewal of Laundromax Pawtucket LLC on Mineral Spring Avenue. Motion to approve these. On a roll call vote, any change, any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-0.
Item 3 is advertised for public hearing an automobile repair shop and secondhand shop licenses, a Class B selling used auto parts. Transfer of location, Pinto's Truck Repair, Pinto's Auto and Truck Repair LLC, 65 Woodlawn Avenue, license numbers 14476 and 14475. This is a transfer from 62 Woodlawn Avenue. I move the public hearing be convened.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Coleman, that a public hearing be convened, automobile repair shop and secondhand shop licenses, Class B, selling used auto parts, transfer of location, Pinto's Truck Repair, Pinto's Auto and Truck Repair, LLC, 65 Woodlawn Avenue, license number 14476 and 14475, transfer from 62 Woodlawn Avenue. Motion to convene the public hearing. Is the applicant here?
Yes, we have Fortunato Pinto here.
Yes.
You want to please state your name and your address for the clerk? Give your name and the address to the clerk.
Fortunato G. Pinto, 65 Woodlawn Avenue, Pawtucket.
Mr. Fortunato Pinto, 65 Woodlawn Avenue, Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Councilor
Yes.
Coleman, is that yours?
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Pinto, thank you for being here. So if I'm understanding right, this business is moving across the street. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the vision, what times you're looking to be operating, et cetera?
It's 8 to 5,
Okay. How many days a week?
Monday to Saturday.
Monday to Saturday. Okay, and how many people employed?
Got three guys.
Okay, yourself and two others?
Excuse me?
Yourself and two others, or three different
Yes.
people?
Yes.
Okay. So in principle, I have no problem with this. What I do want to emphasize is that I have gotten actually recently a couple of complaints about trucks being parked in the street, which impedes the passage of cars. It's not a very big street, as we all know. So I'm happy to move to approve this, but the stipulation is that no trucks can be parked in the street overnight under any circumstances. And I'm going to send a communication over to DPW to get them to paint curb cuts, no parking, sort of yellow curb cuts on 6 feet of each side of both your business on your side of the street and across the street, 62 to 64, so that trucks are not parked in such a way that it impedes the entry and the exit of other vehicles from that, because it's a little space and there's a lot to negotiate in there. So if you can live with that stipulation about the no overnight parking, I'm happy to move for approval.
It's no problem.
Okay.
Councilor Barry.
Megan, do you mind if I just ask one question?
Not at all.
Mr. Pinto, you said your address is 62 Woodland. Do you live there?
No.
So what is your address? I think when
My address is 162 Summit Street, East Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for the applicant?
I'll second it.
All right.
So, and I just want to double check, is there anybody else here to speak on this public hearing?
Okay, with none, declare the public hearing closed.
Council President, I move approval of this license from, what did you say, 8 to 5, with the stipulation that no trucks are to be parked on the street overnight after business hours. And I'll handle the DPW thing in a separate correspondence.
Motion made by Council Coleman, seconded by Council Barry, that approval be given to the automobile repair shop and secondhand shop licenses, Class B, selling used auto parts, transfer of location, Pinto's Truck Repair, Pinto's Auto and Truck Repair, LLC, 65 Woodlawn Avenue, license number 14476 and 14475, transfer from 62 Woodlawn Avenue with the following stipulation that no trucks are to be parked overnight in the street at the location. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Is that a roll call? Is that gonna be a roll call still?
Yes.
All right. Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Councilor Ruzo,
Yes.
Councilor Barry,
Yes.
Councilor Coleman,
Yes.
Councilor Mercer,
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez,
Yes.
Councilor Vitale,
Yes.
Councilor Wilderney,
Yes.
8-0.
Item 4, the following public hearing was recessed and the licenses were postponed at the meeting held September 9, 2020, and are again taken up as an automobile repair shop and second-hand licenses. Class B selling used auto parts, a new license. Woodlawn Village LLC, 62 Woodlawn Avenue, license number 1444 and 14440. I'd open the discussion and toss it to Councilor Coleman.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Coleman. The following public hearing was recessed and licenses were postponed at the meeting held September 9, 2020. And are again taken up. Automobile repair shop and secondhand shop licenses, Class B selling used auto parts new. Woodlawn Village LLC, 62 Woodlawn Avenue, license number 14444 and 14440. Council Coleman.
Thank you. We have since ascertained the zoning. 6264 Woodlawn Ave is an MO zone. So the applicant had requested opening at 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. Is that correct, Tony?
Yes, it is.
Okay, which is permissible under the license. Same stipulation before, nothing business related parked on the street overnight, please. And we will also have DPW assigning the curb cuts. But with that, I'm happy to support this.
I have no problem with that. I'm very adamant, nothing on the street. If I may,
Go ahead. Sorry.
may I add something to the conversation?
Sure, go ahead, sir.
My problem with the Pinto's Auto, which is directly across the street, is that not so much they park overnight, but during the day. I don't have use to my yard because I can't drive in.
Right. So this is where there have been a couple of complaints about that, yours today and actually a few more recently. So this is where I'm going to put a formal request into DPW that they are going to mark off no parking zones on either side of both your driveway and Mr. Pinto's driveway, so that nobody is parking within, I don't know what the convention is, 8 or 10 feet, so that people can actually get in and out. That's the idea there. So that it facilitates access for both of you, and that vehicles are not parked right up at the edge, which impedes access.
Thank you very much.
So duly noted. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any other questions for the applicant? Is there anyone else that wants to speak on this that's out there at all? With not, would declare this public hearing closed. I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. With the stipulation that no vehicles that are business related are parked on the street overnight.
Motion made by Council Coleman, seconded by Council Barry, Council Vitale. Approval be given to automobile repair shop and secondhand shop licenses, Class B selling used auto parts new. Woodlawn Village LLC, 62 Woodlawn Avenue, license number 14444 and 14440. The following stipulation: hours operation 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and number 2, that no trucks to be parked or vehicles to be parked overnight in the street. Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wilderney,
Yes.
8-0.
Council Coleman.
Thank you, Council President. If I may send a letter to DPW right now, if I could be recognized for that, or would you prefer
Yes.
to do it during the meeting? Thank you. I'd like to send a correspondence to Department of Public Works with respect to both of these properties, asking for them to paint the yellow no parking lines on both sides of the street at 65 Woodlawn Ave and 62 to 64 Woodlawn Ave. I don't know if it's 8 feet or 10 feet or 6 feet, but the convention to enable clear passage and access to both of those driveways. And if they could do that as soon as possible, that would be appreciated.
Motion made by Councilor Coleman, seconded by Councilor Vitale, that a communication be sent to DBW asking them to paint the appropriate yellow no parking lines at the location of 62-64 Woodlawn Avenue and 65 Woodlawn Avenue accordingly, and if they could do that as soon as possible. Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Here, yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-0.
No further business coming before the Board of License Commissioners. I move we adjourn and convene as Pawtucket City Council.
Second.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Coleman, Council Barry. We adjourn as the Pawtucket Board of License Commissioners and convene as Pawtucket City Council. Before we do so, if we could state the Pledge of Allegiance started by Councilor Barry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Council will come to order. Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Here.
Council Ruzo,
Yeah.
Council Barry,
Here.
Council Coleman,
Here.
Council Mercer,
Here.
Council Rudd, Council Vasquez,
Here.
Council Vitale,
Here.
Council Wildenhain.
Here.
8 in attendance.
It's advertised for a public hearing. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket, 1996, entitled Change in Official Zoning Map regarding the addition of 104 Glenwood Avenue, Assessors Plat 66, Lot 919 to the Historic District. I move the public hearing be convened.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Wildenhain, Council Barry, Council Arujo, that a public hearing be convened in ordinance and amendment of Chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket, 1996, entitled Zoning, Change in Official Zoning Map, addition of 104 Glenwood Avenue, Assessors Plat 66, Lot 919 to the Historic District. Motion is to convene the public hearing. Is somebody here on this?
Mr. President, the owner of the home appeared before the ordinance committee earlier tonight and
Okay.
Made a very articulate case for the induction or the inclusion of this property in the historic district. I believe it was also accompanied by approval from the Planning Commission. So I don't know if there's anybody else here to speak on the public hearing.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to speak on this at all? Guess not.
Just 1 second, please. Sorry about that. In that case, have we closed the public hearing? Okay, that brings us then.
Public hearing has been closed.
All right, on the docket is another public hearing for an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket, 1996, entitled Zoning, a change in official zoning map regarding a change of 30 India Street, Assessors Plat 26, Lot 650, from RT Residential 2-Family to Industrial Open MO Zone. I move the public hearing be convened.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Wildenhain, Council Arujo, that a public hearing be convened for an ordinance, an amendment of Chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances, the City of Pawtucket, 1996, entitled Zoning, Change in Official Zoning Map, change of 30 India Street, Assessors Plat 26, Lot 650, from RT Residential 2-Family to Industrial Open MO Zone. Motion to convene a public hearing. Councilor Horan, are you here for this?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Michael Horan on behalf of the applicant 30 India Street LLC, whose principal is John Savage, who is also present. This is a petition asking that this property, which is further defined as Plat 26, Lot 650 on India Street, be rezoned from its existing RT Residential 2-Family to Industrial Open MO Zone. This property is a very large piece of property, approximately 70,000 square feet. It basically is just off the industrial highway. Most of the property to the north and west of it is already in an industrial zone because of the proximity to the industrial highway. This property certainly is not easily adaptable to a residential use. I think quite honestly, it should have been in an industrial MO zone from the beginning. But Mr. Savage has recently purchased this property and he's in the process of rehabbing it, and he intends to utilize it for the purposes allowed in an industrial MO as light industrial use for manufacturing, assembly, storage of durable goods and related activities. I know we've been before the Planning Department Commission and they approved it. We were before the Ordinance Committee earlier this evening. They approved it. I believe that this property has really been improperly zoned. This is certainly not spot zoning, and Mr. Savage is present to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions at all? Councilor Mercer?
Mr. Savage, I know you answered this question for the ordinance committee, but for the benefit of the rest of the council members tonight and at least one person who was called in for this purpose, can you just let us know what it is you're envisioning doing with the property?
Certainly. So I don't know if everyone's had an opportunity to look at the property. It might be helpful if I just gave a very brief description of what the property is. It's basically a large open warehouse. It's about 20,000 square feet of just a large square warehouse, open span, and it has a small office, two-story office on the northern end of the property. The property was built, I believe, about 40 or 50 years ago as part of United Paper. They operated on both sides of India Street. There's that very long building they have with multiple garage doors that has, when United Paper went out of business, it's been used for some other light manufacturing, as I understand. And this building, to the best of my knowledge, just stopped being used at that time. It's been vacant for at least 3 or 4 years. And it is in quite poor shape. As a matter of fact, it was under agreement twice, and when it failed inspections both times, Herb Weiss called me and asked me if I'd take a look, if I'd be interested. And it had been heavily neglected. When I bought it, the first thing we did was the grass was waist high, even higher in many places. We've taken that down. We had the building power washed today. The painters will start next week. Somebody had, it looked like, missed the garage door and caved in a good portion of the block walls. The masons were there today and the day before looking at that. And we'll fix that. We'll clean it up. We're going to paint the building. We're doing the parking lot. We'll put in new garage doors because they're in poor shape. There's been a lot of trash on the property that it's been a little difficult to keep up with. I don't know where all these couches and recliners come from, but we've been doing that. But my experience with these kind of properties, and as I would hope most of you know, I have quite a few of them in Pawtucket. My experience is that if you get on the trash right away, just like graffiti, and you maintain the building well, you don't have those kinds of issues as much. I mean, you still have the people dumping, but that goes with the territory. So to answer Mr. Mercer's question more directly, I don't really know what the use will be for the property. Now, we are speaking with a few tenants, and I just don't know where that will go. I was attracted to the building because it has a concrete floor, and that type of light manufacturing industrial space We don't have a lot of at a lot of our mill properties, and we do get some requests for it. Most of those mill properties have elevated floors, and most of them are wood. And so the few tenants that we're talking to now, I don't know what will come of it. Oftentimes nothing comes of it. But I hope that we will find somebody that is acceptable to us, which would be a clean operator that follows the rules and doesn't do things in the properties they shouldn't be doing. That's not permitted. And that we don't get any complaints or concerns from neighbors because we just we don't really we don't allow that and don't have the bandwidth for it, candidly.
I appreciate that, Mr. Savage. Mike, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
You said you think it was inappropriately zoned in the first place, but what Mr. Savage has indicated he hoped to use it for is not out of line with how it's been utilized since it was built.
So it's
kind of like in a non-conforming capacity.
That's right. It's existed and been operated as light industrial, as a non-conforming, I presume, grandfathered in before the adoption of the zoning ordinance in '66. But clearly, the building is not a residential building, and it's clearly, it's an industrial zone, i.e., the name for the highway and the development of everything around it. But it's clearly, I don't know if they ever got a use variance, Councilman Mercer, but clearly has been used in the past as a non-conforming use in terms of it being an existing residential zone.
Okay, thank you. I do think there's at least one more person who'd like to speak on this matter.
Mr.
Anyone else who
Hello.
wants to speak on this?
Yeah, I'd like to talk.
You can give your name and your home address to the clerk, please.
It's Stephen Dixon. I live at 52 Moss Street, which is right across the street from that property. Not actually right across the street, kind of like on an angle from it.
All right, go ahead. You can speak.
He's saying no, but the building has been unoccupied. There's businesses working over there, trucks going in and out of the building. That's the old cardboard company. Is that what he was talking about? That no one's using that, or he's purchasing that also?
May I address that?
Sure.
Yeah. I believe, Mr. Dixon, you're speaking about the long building that's immediately adjacent to the industrial highway. I am. Yes, I have no affiliation with that building. The building that I purchased is considerably smaller than that long building, and
yes, it's the old weigh station.
Exactly.
Correct. Where they used to weigh the material.
Exactly.
That building's fairly new, isn't it?
No, I don't think so. I can tell you the exact date on it if you give me just a second. But I remember I had told the ordinance committee when I was in high school, I used to work for a bicycle shop on Smithfield Avenue. And one of my jobs was to take the scrap cardboard every week down, and I'd weigh it on that scale and then drive it into that building, dump the load, come back, they'd weigh the truck again, and they'd pay you whatever it was, a few dollars for your load of cardboard. So that would have been in the early 70s. So it's been there at least that long, and it didn't look brand new back then when I did that.
That building actually looks pretty good. That building at the end of the lot.
Yes.
I understand the lot. My biggest problem is going to be with we've had trucks that park right down near our house, and that was because of the cardboard company across the street. So we don't want to get into something like that again.
Right.
We'd like at least some kind of a buffer zone in front of our houses over here to eliminate, like a lot of the noise. I mean, they used to use impact wrenches right across the street from the lady that lived on the corner, which was horrible. Chisels to chisel
I
trucks.
I will tell you that one of my employees has been instructed and in fact has tagged a number of the vehicles that have been parked there without my permission. And we've been in touch with those that we can contact. They have stickers they put on the side windows of the vehicles. So that's not anything we're interested in over there.
Right.
Yeah, I hope you noticed how the lot was cleaned up, and that propane tank is going to be leaving in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We hired somebody today to get the weeds out of the cracks so we can do the resurfacing. I think you'll find it.
Actually, it's not too bad over there. It's actually a pretty decent lot. Our only problem is with right outside the lot, we have, like a pile of Tommy's Lounges people. They park all of their vehicles over there also.
Sure. Well, I
so,
think
there were just a couple of things. I know that it's going to be used industrial. We're not going to stop that. That's taken. But down toward our area, we'd like a little bit of a buffer zone away from all of the crap, more or less.
Well, I think you'll find that we're very good neighbors and we'll be very responsive to your concerns.
And for the city itself, we have our stop sign is at the end of Morse Street, and then it continues out about another 50 feet before it hits India Street. It's kind of weird the way they have it set up. The stop sign is not actually on India Street. It's like way up the street. It's really ridiculous the way it is. And it would be nice if they actually put some kind of an island there or something with the stop sign right at the end of the street, which would also help stop the trucks from the way they pull into the lots.
Mr. Dixon, this is Councilman Mercer. I know you can't hear or see us. Well, you can't see us anyway.
No, I can't.
I'll swing by in the next few days to Morse Street. What's your address? 52 Morse?
I'm at 52. Yes.
Yeah, I'll swing by and we can talk about the other issues with the Tommy's Lounge and the trucks parking and the stop sign, and see if we can't get all of that fixed to your satisfaction.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a big noise. You know what I mean? You got a truck running out there for 2 hours.
Yeah, we can definitely do something about that, but that's the property owned by somebody else, not Mr. Savage that we're talking about tonight. But that's the bigger building right on the railroad tracks, right?
Yeah. No. I'm talking the parking lot. It's the big giant. It's like the length of 2 football fields. I know exactly. I thought he was talking about that other building with the garage doors that were all messed up.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
All I know is that there's like a.
What's been happening is the trucks that Mr. Dixon is talking about have been parking on our property without permission, and that's going to stop because they have a large yard further down India Street, and that's where their truck should locate. They're not going to be permitted to park on our property.
And as far as
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but as far as the other things, we can take care of those outside of this process.
Yes, that would be cool. I mean, I have no problem with it being industrial because that's what it is. It's just that, to try and keep us, a little bit in a buffer zone because actually the house on the corner of India Street's been there for like 100 years. It was here when the apple trees were here. So, I mean, it's everything got built around her and then it turned into us. So, we're spread out just to kind of like neighborly type of thing.
Councilman Mercer, if I may just butt in.
Sure.
May I just say that if and when, you do meet with the neighbors and that, we're certainly amenable. Please contact us. And if we could be of any assistance in improving the entire area, I know my client has no objection to that.
That's a very nice offer. Thank you.
I'm good with that.
All right, is there anyone else out there that wants to speak on this? All right, we can't declare the public hearing closed.
Okay, just to let Mr. Dixon know, because he's probably not familiar with this, we're not going to make a decision on this until later in the night. You're welcome to hang on or do as you please. So with that,
I'm all set with it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I move approval be given to the minutes of the City Council meeting, the Committee on Claims and Pending Suits, and the City Property Committee meetings from September 9th, 2020 on a roll call vote.
Second.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Vasquez, that we approve the previous minutes of the September 9th, 2020 City Council Committee on Claims and Pending Suits and City Property Committee minutes as prepared by the clerk. Any changes? Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. President, I move approval of the consent agenda and correspondence on a roll call vote.
Second.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Wildenhain, that we approve the consent agenda and correspondence on a roll call vote. Are there any items that the council would like to discuss at all? Council Barry?
C.
C?
C, please. C.
DC, okay. Council Wildenhain?
H.
H. And Council Mercer?
N.
Anything else? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda and correspondence signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. On a roll
Aye.
call vote, I keep forgetting that. Clerk will call the roll, sorry.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-0.
Council Barry, item C.
Mr. President, members of the council, the item C is a communication from the chief of police to you about raids online and all the information that residents of the community can get by using this technology. But one of the things that's on there is the 2019 annual report that is published and there and it's available. And so the chief, I believe, is taking care of that business as routine matter.
So that report is there now, the report that the other woman was referring to?
I believe that that's what the annual report, the 2019 annual report is on raids online.
I was going to add into that, even though it's kind of not related. Does everybody remember, we used to get, it was funny when I was reading that note, and I'm glad you brought that up, but we used to get that email daily about what was going on in the district about, we haven't seen that in like, how long has that been now? Well, all of a sudden.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
It's online, but Counselor, but it used to be able to pull it onto your phone. You used to get the alerts on your phone, and I haven't seen them on my phone in a while.
Yeah, well, even like the email, you could just hit it and there was a problem. Remember, it wasn't working for a while, and I even discussed it with one of the officers who's in the IT over there, and they actually repaired it. But the more I think about it, we haven't seen that in so long now.
Right.
I mean, is that something, I mean, I was always interested in seeing that, but maybe Rick, you can, I'll entertain a motion maybe to send a letter to the chief, just to have them look at it. I just can't remember what that was called. I don't remember what it was called, but it would tell us what crimes are going on in the area and stuff like that. So.
I think that's community crime map.
Yeah, but I forget there was a term, there's a name for it. I just can't think of it.
I'll make the motion.
All right, motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Barry. Again, let it be sent to the chief and asking if we can get engaged again with whatever that website is that would list any crimes within a certain radius in Pawtucket. It's been several months, it might have been a year now or so. We're having issues with it, and then they started to send it. We haven't seen it, God, in so long. So if we could get a response and by the next meeting from the chief, that'd be appreciated. Any discussion, Councilor Coleman?
President, if I may tag on to that request, I'm on the crime map site right now, and I'm not sure that I see what Councilor Berry is referring to. So I think if we could just add a quick addendum to that letter and ask her to confirm which report it is, if this is the one that Ms. Klinger has been referring to, or if this is a different one, or if we can get some clarification on that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, that's fine. If we can amend that, Rick, and then again, if it's not the correct report, we might as well amend that to say, are we going to get that report shortly? Councilor Wildenhain.
And I believe Ms. Klinger said it was a report that was due in September. So I don't know if it would be the report from September 2020 or September 2019. So
It would be 19.
All those in favor of setting that communication? Clerk will call the roll. I'm sorry, clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
yes.
9-0.
Council Wildenhain, item H.
Council President, before I take item H, I'd like to introduce a cover letter for the ground lease agreement for the Tidewater site from Jeremy Savage Esquire. I'd like to have that letter, I guess, put in to the minutes, and then to also enter the lease and send them both to the Claims Committee for review.
Claims?
Property Committee.
Property means property.
Property, excuse me.
Motion made by Council Wildenhain, seconded by Council Mercer, that the following items be filed. A communication from, I think it was Jeremy Savage, regarding, what is it, the ground lease for the Tidewater,
Yes.
for the Tidewater Landing project, as well as the lease itself. Have that filed and be referred to the Property Committee for review. Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
9-0.
Item H was a letter from Eric Girls, the director of DPW, in regards to the sign on Bolston Street and the crosswalks. He told me the sign's on order and should be here in a couple of weeks. And I want to thank him for that letter in response. And I await the opportunity for the crosswalks to be back on Daggett Avenue too. I know they're reviewing that also and going over it with the vendor. So I appreciate his response.
So noted. Council Mercer, item N.
Item N is a communication from Donna N. Nesselbush, Chief Judge of the Pawtucket Municipal Court, to Councilor John J. Barry III regarding a change of name for the municipal court. Essentially, we have always referred to the municipal court in the charter and every place else as the police court. And Judge Nesselbush is suggesting that we officially change that name to municipal court. I'm fully in favor of doing that. I would ask that a letter be sent to the law office, just asking that they create a revised ordinance for the ordinance committee to take up, and that it be placed on the ordinance committee meeting for the first meeting of October.
We have that.
Is it on there?
Yeah, that's the next item. That's O.
No.
Oh.
Maybe.
Yeah, it is, right.
O is the item. Okay, so, and the only other thing that I would say, please schedule that for the next meeting, October, for an ordinance committee meeting, and extend an invitation to Judge Nesselbush to come down if she'd like to, please.
We'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to item 3, I had 2 items I wanted to bring up. One is in light of the fact that Fortuitous came in and gave us a great update on that project. I was actually on the phone this weekend with Jeannie Boy. We were talking about that project and what was going to happen this evening. And I asked her for a status on the Narragansett Plaza development in East Providence, Pawtucket line. And she had mentioned to me that it seemed to be slowing down a bit or stalling a bit. So I thought in light of that, what I'd like to do, and it doesn't have to be a motion, just Rick, if you could extend an invitation, I guess it's to Kelly Coates, the main person in charge of this development, and see if we can get him in here for the next meeting in October for pre-council to give the council an update on that Narragansett Plaza development. So if you could do that, I would appreciate that.
Second.
Yeah, I won't make a motion, but Rick, you can just let us know on that officially. The other thing is I had a constituent issue in my district. I'd like to entertain a motion that a letter be sent to the chief. I'm getting a few complaints regarding the four-way stop sign intersection at Cottage Street and Grand Avenue. People are going, I guess, through the stop sign, and some people are complaining about that, especially on the Cottage Street side, and also Grand Avenue at that intersection. It's a one-way heading out from Grand onto Cottage, and there are some people that later in the day, say between 3 and 6 o'clock, there's such a long line on Cottage as it gets to Newport Avenue that they're actually creating their own shortcut and illegally going down the one-way street on Grand Avenue, which is causing safety issues. So I'd like a letter to be sent to the chief and see if we can get a police officer out there, maybe from 3 to 6, to monitor the one-way potential violation issue on Grand Avenue at Cottage, and also to monitor motorists that are not stopping completely at the stop sign on Cottage at the four-way Grand, and if we could get a report by the next meeting, but I'll entertain a motion for that.
That's Cottage and Grand?
Yeah, Cottage and Grand. So it's a combination of the four-way stop, not stopping at Cottage, and then also people taking a left down Grand, going the wrong way down the one-way.
I'll make the motion.
All right, so noted. Motion made by Council Willenhage, seconded by Council Mercer. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran?
Yes.
Council Ruzo?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Council Coleman?
Yes.
Council Mercer?
Yes.
Council Vasquez?
Yes.
Council Vitale?
Yes.
Council Wildenhain?
Yes.
9-0.
Number 3, the City Property Committee returns the following request with a recommendation to be denied. A communication from Carolina Garcia to the honorable members of Pawtucket City Council requesting the purchase lot at 185 Mulberry Street. I call for approval on a roll call vote to deny.
Motion made by Council Willenhage, seconded by Council Barry. The City Property Committee returns the following request with a recommendation to be denied. Communication from Carolina Garcia to the honorable members of Pawtucket City Council requesting to purchase the lot at 185 Mulberry Street. The recommendation from the Property Committee is to deny this. Any discussion? Council Coleman.
Could the members of the property committee just give us a quick rundown about what happened there?
The committee turned around and talked to the woman when she came in and indicated that it's the lot across from her house and that she wanted to put her business trucks there, which would be industrial trucks going in and out of the neighborhood. And there was a concern from all the members of the committee that that wouldn't be conducive to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
And the recommendation from the planning commission.
Correct.
Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran?
Yes to deny.
Council Ruzo?
Yes.
Council Barry?
Yes.
Council Coleman?
Yes.
Council Mercer?
Yes.
Council Vasquez?
Yes.
Council Vitale?
Yes.
Council Wildenhain?
Yes.
8-0.
Item 4, resolution proclaiming the month from September 15, 2020 to October 15, 2020, Hispanic Heritage Month. Motion on a roll call vote.
Second.
Motion made by Council Vasquez, seconded by Council Ruzo, Council Barry, Council Vitale. Resolution proclaiming the month from September 15, 2020 to October 15, 2020, Hispanic Heritage Month 2020. Motion to approve the resolution on a roll call vote. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran?
Yes.
Council Ruzo?
Yes.
Council Barry?
Yes.
Council Coleman?
Yes.
Council Mercer?
Yes.
Council Council Vasquez?
Yes.
Vitale?
Yes.
Council Wildenhain?
Yes.
8-0.
Item 5, an ordinance amendment of Chapter 388 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket 1996 entitled Vehicles and Traffic, which is regarding a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Columbia Avenue and Fairview Avenue. I move second passage on a roll call vote.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Vitale. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 388 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket 1996 entitled Vehicles and Traffic, four-way stop sign at the intersection of Columbia Avenue and Fairview Avenue for second passage. Motion to approve on a roll call vote. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Coleman, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain,
Yeah, make up your own rules. Don't worry about it. Yeah, yes.
8-0.
Item 6, the ordinance committee returns the following ordinance and amendment of Chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket 1996 entitled Zoning, change an official zoning map regarding the addition of 104 Glenwood Avenue, Assessors Plat 66, Lot 919, to the Historic District. I move approval, first passage on a roll call vote.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Vitale. Council Coleman. The ordinance committee returns the following: an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket 1996 entitled Zoning, change an official zoning map, addition of 104 Glenwood Avenue, Assessors Plat 66, Lot 919 to the Historic District for first passage. Motion to approve on a roll call vote. Any discussion? Clerk will call roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain,
Yes.
8-0.
Item 7, the ordinance committee returns the following: an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket 1996 entitled Zoning, change an official zoning map regarding a change of 30 India Street, Assessors Plat 26, Lot 650, from residential to family to industrial open MO zone. I move first passage on a roll call vote.
Motion made by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Ruzo, Council Vasquez. Ordinance committee returns the following: an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket 1996 entitled Zoning, change an official zoning map, change of 30 India Street, Assessors Plat 26, Lot 650, from RT residential to family to industrial open MO zone, for approval on a roll call vote for first passage from the ordinance committee. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain,
Yes.
8-0.
Council Barry.
Mr. President, if I might, I have a communication from Mayor Grevian to the members of the City Council regarding a suit we're filing on behalf of the pilot money regarding, in connection to Memorial Hospital. I move that the communication be filed.
Motion made by Council Barry, seconded by Council Mercer. Council Wildenhain, that a letter from the mayor regarding filing suit regarding the reducing or taking away of the pilot funding be filed. Any discussion? Clerk will call a roll.
President Moran,
Yes.
Council Ruzo,
Yes.
Council Barry,
Yes.
Council Coleman,
Yes.
Council Mercer,
Yes.
Council Vasquez,
Yes.
Council Vitale,
Yes.
Council Wildenhain,
Yes.
8-0.
Councilor Barry again, I guess.
I'd like to make a motion when we adjourn, that we adjourn in memory of someone. I don't know if there's any other business though.
I'd like to make the same motion, so go ahead, Council Barry.
Did all three here.
I'm going to ask that the council adjourns tonight in memory of Raymond Chapoyas, a former member of the City Council, served for 8 years on the council, was heavily involved in many activities in the community, had long service working for the state of Rhode Island, and of late was in very poor health and lived in that condition for several years. but Chip was a happy-go-lucky, hardworking member of the community, member of the council. So I ask that we adjourn in his memory this evening.
So noted. Anything else? Council Mercer.
I'd also like to ask that we adjourn in memory of a lifelong Pawtucket resident, Nancy Gendron, a longtime neighbor of Councilor Vitale, the wife of the late Judge Joe Gendron. She was a fixture in Pawtucket, a fixture at the Pawtucket Country Club, raised a lovely family, 3 daughters and a son, Patty, Martha, Ann, and Jay. She'll be sadly missed in Pawtucket, in Countryside, and especially around the green pastures of Pawtucket Country Club.
Anything else?
Councilor
Yes,
Rudy.
Councilor Rudy.
Yes, I also like to adjourn in memory of Mr. and Mrs. Javi Goulet, who passed away 2 days from each other, being married 56 years. Javi served the city well for many years, and he also was involved in a lot of youth sports. And Mrs. Goulet served the St. Mary's community as well. They were, I believe, lifelong residents, and I wanted to adjourn in their memory.
Anything else? Anybody else? All right, motion made by Councilor Mercer, seconded by the entire city council, that we adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Raymond Chip Hoyas, who served the city well, a community advocate. He served as a councilor in District 3. Also, I guess, Nancy Gendron, a lifelong resident, also a former neighbor of Councilor Vitale's. And of course, Mr. and Mrs. Javi Goulet. Javi served the city very well. I know he served for many years under the Doyle administration. He also worked for the state delegation as well. So all of these people will be sadly missed, and we pray for them. Meeting adjourned.
Good night.
Good night.
No, we gotta talk now.
Oh, that's right.
Nobody's going